Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janabala Bhagi Vaya. Yashodananda Braja Jana Yashodananda Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tirambana Chari Yamuna Tirambana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Janabala Bhagi Vaya. Yashodananda Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodananda Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tirambana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janabala Bhagi Vaya. Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together, please. Narayanam Namaskritam Tamam Bhagavati Tamam. So this morning's class is one of the self-contained short chapters from the 10th Canto. So we're going to read it from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone knows it's a half-day fast today. Huh? Oh, it's not? Oh, whole day fast. I was born early in the morning. It's Vidyasagar's appearance day. Good day to butter up to Temple President. So I brought him a little present here. This is a, years we've been thinking all the wonderful stories of book distribution that that have occurred over the decades in ISKCON. It should be recorded somewhere. So this is a book of those exploits from devotees all over the world distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Maybe if we treat Shruti nicely, you might read some excerpts now and then. Hope you enjoy it. Okay. So we're reading this morning the story of King Nrga. And what I guess we'd like to do is just read around the room. Everybody read a paragraph, read two if they're short, and we will cover this story and then discuss.
Once the family members of Lord Krishna, such as Samba, Padimna, Charu, Bhanu, and Gada, all princes of the Yadu dynasty, went for a long picnic in the forest near Dwarka. In the course of their excursion, all of them became thirsty, and so they tried to find out where water was available in the forest. When they approached the well, they found no water in it, but on the contrary, within the well was a wonderful living entity, There was a large lizard, and all of them were astonished to see such a wonderful animal. They could understand that the animal was trapped and could not escape by its own effort. So out of compassion, they tried to take the large lizard out of the well. Unfortunately, they could not get the lizard out, even though they tried to do so in many ways.
Maybe so.
When the princes returned home, their story was narrated before Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, after hearing the appeal from his sons, he personally went to the well and easily got the great lizard out simply by extending his left hand. Immediately upon being touched by the hand of Lord Krishna, that great lizard gave up its lizard shape and appeared as a beautiful demigod, an inhabitant of the heavenly planets. His complexion glittered like molten gold. He was decorated with fine garments, and he wore costly ornaments around his neck.
How the demigod had been obliged to accept the body of a lizard was not a secret to Lord Krishna. Still, for his information, the Lord inquired, "My dear fortunate demigod, now I see that your body is so beautiful and lustrous. Who are you? I can guess that you are one of the best demigods in the heavenly planets. All good fortune to you. I think that you are not meant to be in this situation. It must be due to the results of your past activities that you were put into the species of lizard life. Still, I want to hear from you how you were put into this position. If you think that you can disclose this secret, then please tell us your identity."
Conspiracy theorists love this chapter. The lizard people.
Actually, this large lizard was King Nrga, and when questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately bowed down before the Lord, touching to the ground the helmet on his head, which was as dazzling as the sunshine. In this way, he first offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. He then said, "My dear Lord, I am King Nrga, the son of King Ikshvaku. If you have ever taken account of old charitably disposed men, I am sure you must have heard my name. My Lord, you are the supreme witness. You are aware of every bit of work done by the living entities, past, present, and future. Nothing can be hidden from your eternal cognizance. Still, you've ordered me to explain my history, and I shall therefore narrate the full story."
King Nrga proceeded to narrate the history of his degradation caused by his Kalakantha activities. He said that he had been very charitably disposed and had given away so many cows that the total was equal to the number of particles of dust on the earth, stars in the sky, or drops of water in a rainfall. According to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, a man who is charitably disposed is recommended to give cows to the Brahmanas. From King Nrga's statement, it appears that he followed this principle earnestly. However, as a result of a slight discrepancy, he was forced to take birth as a lizard. Therefore, it is recommended by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita that one who is charitably disposed and desires to derive the benefit of his charity should offer his gifts to please Krishna. To give charity means to perform pious activities by which one may be elevated to the higher planetary systems. But promotion to the heavenly planets is no guarantee that one will never fall down. Rather, the example of King Nrga definitely proves that fruitive activities, even if very pious, cannot give us eternal blissful life. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the result of work, either pious or impious, is sure to bind a man unless the work is discharged as yajna on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
King Nrga said that the cows he had given in charity were not ordinary cows. Each one was very young and had given birth to only one calf. They were full of milk, very peaceful and healthy. All the cows were purchased with money earned legally. Furthermore, their horns were gold-plated, their hooves were bedecked with silver plating, and they were covered with necklaces and with silken wrappers embroidered with pearls. He stated that these valuably decorated cows had not been given to any worthless persons, but had been distributed to first-class Brahmins whom he had also decorated with nice garments and gold ornaments. The Brahmins were well qualified, and since none of them were rich, their family members were always in want for the necessities of life. A real Brahmana never hoards money for a luxurious life, like the Kshatriyas or the Vaishyas, but always keep himself poverty-stricken, knowing that money diverts the mind to materialistic ways of life. To live in this way is the vow of a qualified Brahmin, and all of these Brahmanas were very well situated in that exalted vow. They were well learned in Vedic knowledge. They executed the required austerities and penances in their lives and were liberal, meeting the standard of qualified Brahmins. They were equally friendly to everyone. Above all, they were young and quite fit to act as qualified Brahmins. Besides the cows, they were also given land, gold, houses, horses, and elephants. Those who were not married were given wives, maidservants, grain, silver, utensils, garments, jewels, household furniture, chariots, and more. This charity was nicely performed as a sacrifice according to the Vedic rituals. The king also stated that not only had he bestowed gifts upon the Brahmins, but he had performed other pious activities, such as digging wells, planting trees on the roadside, and installing ponds along the highways.
The king continued, in spite of all this, unfortunately, one of the Brahmana's cows that I had given in charity chanced to enter amongst my other cows. Not knowing this, I again gave it in charity to another Brahmana. As the cow was being taken away by this Brahmana, its former master claimed it as his own, stating, "This cow was formerly given to me, so how is it that you're taking it away?" Thus there was arguing and fighting between the two Brahmanas, and they came before me and charged that I had taken back a cow I had previously given in charity. To give something to someone and then to take it back is considered a great sin, especially in a dealing with a Brahmana. When both Brahmanas charged the king with the same complaint, he was simply puzzled as to how it had happened. Thereafter, with great humility, the king offered each of them 100,000 cows in exchange for the one cow that was causing the fight between them. He prayed to them that he was his servant and there had been some mistake. Thus, in order to rectify it, he prayed that they be very kind upon him and accept his offer in exchange for the cow. The king fervently appealed to the Brahmanas not to cause his downfall into hell because of this mistake. Brahmana's property is called Brahmaswa, and according to Manu's law, it cannot be acquired even by the government. Both Brahmanas, however, insisted that the cow was theirs and could not be taken back under any condition. Neither of them agreed to exchange it for the 100,000 cows. Thus, disagreeing with the king's proposal, the two Brahmanas left the place in anger, thinking that the lawful possession had been usurped.
After this incident, when the time came for the king to give up his body, he was taken before Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, who asked him whether he first wanted to enjoy the results of his pious activities or suffer the results of his impious activities. Seeing that the king had executed so many pious activities and charities, Yamaraj also hinted that he did not know the limit of the king's future enjoyment. In other words, there would be practically no end to the king's material happiness. But in spite of this hint, the king, bewildered, decided first to suffer the results of his impious activities and then to accept the results of his pious activities. Therefore, Yamaraj immediately turned him into a lizard.
Nrga had remained in the well as a big lizard for a very long time. He told Lord Krishna, "In spite of being put into that degraded condition of life, I simply thought of you, my dear Lord, and my memory was never vanquished. It appears from these statements that King Nrga that persons who follow the principles of fruitive activities and derive some material benefits are not very intelligent. Being given the choice by the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, King Nrga could have first accepted the results of his pious activities. Instead, he thought it better first to receive the effects of his impious activities and then enjoy the effects of his pious activities without disturbance. On the whole, he had not developed Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person develops love of God, Krishna, not love for pious or impious activities. Therefore, he is not subjected to the results of such action. As stated in the Vama Samhita, a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, is not subjected to the reactions of fruitive activities.
Somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, King Nrga had aspired to see the Lord. He continued, "My dear Lord, I had a great desire that someday I may be able to see you personally. I think that this great desire to see you, combined with my tendency to perform ritualistic and charitable activities, has enabled me to retain the memory of who I was in my former life, even though I became a lizard. Such a person who remembers his past life is called a jati smarta. In modern times, there are also instances of small children recalling many details of their past lives. My dear Lord, you are the super soul seated in everyone's heart. There are many great mystic yogis who have the eyes to see you through the Vedas and the Upanishads. To achieve the elevated position of realizing that they are always equal in quality with you, they always meditate on you within their hearts. But although such exalted, saintly persons may see you constantly within their hearts,
They still cannot see you face to face. Therefore, I am very much surprised that I am able to see you personally. I know that I was engaged in so many activities, especially as a king. Although I was in the midst of luxury and opulence, and was subject to so much of the happiness and misery of the material existence, I am so fortunate to be seeing you personally. As far as I know, when one becomes liberated from material existence, he can see you in this way.
When King Nrga elected to receive the results of his impious activities, he was given the body of a lizard because of the mistake in his pious activities. Thus, he could not be directly converted to a higher status of life, like a great demigod. However, along his pious activities, he thought of Krishna, so he was quickly released from the body of a lizard and given the body of a demigod. By worshiping the Supreme Lord, those who desire material opulences are given the bodies of powerful demigods. Somehow these demigods can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, but they are still not yet eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the Kalakantha planets. However, the demigods continue to be devotees of the Lord. The next chance they get, they will enter into the Kalakantha planet.
Having attained the body of a demigod, King Nrga continued to remember everything said. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Lord and are worshipped by all the demigods. You are not one of the ordinary living entities. You are the Supreme Person. Purushotama, you are the source of all happiness for all living entities. Therefore, you are known as Govinda. You are the Lord of those living entities who have accepted material bodies and those who have not yet accepted material bodies. Among the living entities who have not accepted material bodies are those who hover in the material world as evil spirits or live in the ghostly atmosphere. However, those who live in the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha Lokas have bodies not made of material elements. You, my Lord, are infallible. You are the supreme, the purest of all living entities. You live in everyone's heart. You are the shelter of all living entities. Narayan, being seated in the heart of all living entities, you are the supreme director of everyone's sensual activities. Therefore, you are called Rishikesha.
My dear Supreme Lord Krishna, because you have given me this body of a demigod, I will have to go to some heavenly planet. So I'm taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy. I pray that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form or life or planet may be transferred. You are all pervading, present everywhere, as cause and effect. You are the causes of all causes, and your power is unlimited. You are the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Brahman. I therefore offer you my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. My dear Lord, your body is full of transcendental bliss and knowledge, and you are eternal. You are the master of all mystic powers. Therefore, you are known as Yogisvara. Kindly accept me as an insignificant particle of the dust of your lotus feet.
Before entering the heavenly planets, King Nrga circumambulated the Lord, touched his helmet to the Lord's lotus feet, and bowed before him. Seeing the airplane from the heavenly planets present before him, he was given permission by the Lord to board it. After the departure of King Nrga, Lord Krishna expressed his appreciation for the king's devotion to the Brahmanas, as well as his charitable disposition and his performance of Vedic rituals. Therefore, it is recommended that if one cannot directly become a devotee of the Lord, one should follow the Vedic principles of life. This will enable him one day to see the Lord by being promoted either directly to the spiritual kingdom or indirectly to the heavenly kingdom, where he has hope of being transferred to the spiritual planets.
At this time, Lord Krishna was present among the relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class. To teach them through the exemplary character of King Nrga, he said, even though Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmin and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings who falsely think themselves the most powerful beings of the material world usurp a Brahmana's property?
I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison, there is treatment. One can be relieved from its effects. But if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there is no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example is King Nrga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it, and ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of Brahmana, who is dissatisfied, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. Formerly, the Brahmanas used to ignite the fire of sacrifice, not with matches or any other external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Arani. If someone even touches a Brahmana's property, his family is ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmana's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him and 10 generations after will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a pure Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will be liberated.
Lord Krishna continued, if some foolish king who is puffed up by his wealth, prestige, and power wants to upset a Brahmana's property, he should be understood to be clearing his path to hell. He does not know how much he has to suffer for such an unwise act. If someone takes away the property of a very liberal Brahmana who is encumbered by a large dependent family, then such an usurper is put into the hell known as Kumbhipaka. Not only is he put to this hell, but his family members also have to accept such a miserable condition of life. A person who takes away a Brahmana's property, whether it was originally given by him or by someone else, is condemned to live for at least 60,000 years as a miserable insect in stool. Okay. Therefore, I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not even by mistake take the possession of a Brahmana and thereby pollute your whole family. If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of his life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies, and after being bereft for his royal possession, he gives up his body and will become a serpent, giving trouble to all other living entities. My dear boys and relatives, I therefore advise you that even if a Brahmana becomes angry with you and calls you by ill names and curses you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, and offer your respects to the Brahmana. You know very well that even I myself offer my obediences to the Brahmanas with great respect 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my instruction and example. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish him. You should learn from the example of King Nrga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmana, he's put to a miserable condition of life.
Thus, Lord Krishna, who is always engaged in purifying the conditioned living entities, gave instruction not only to his family members and the inhabitants of Dvaraka, but to all the members of human society. After this, the Lord entered his palace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 64th chapter of Krishna, the story of King Nrga.
How many here are familiar with whiteout? Everybody knows whiteout. Some okay, some of you don't. Now, whiteout is a correction fluid used for if you want to fix something on a white page. So, how many of you are familiar with carbon paper? Okay, less. All right, so back in the previous millennium, when I was growing up, if you wanted to produce a document, a letter or something, you used a manual typewriter. And it was a physical force of your fingers pushing each key that would strike the paper, and create the letter. And if you wanted to have a duplicate of it, you would use carbon paper, which had to be aligned very carefully and rolled manually into the cylinder and then type. And if you made a mistake, then you had to take out the original, take out the carbon, take out your whiteout, correct it on the carbon, correct it on the original, put it very carefully, wait for it to dry, put it very carefully back in, and then proceed typing. This was not all that long ago. And before that, carbon paper and whiteout were not existent back in the 50s. So if you wanted to type something, you would type it and you had just one copy. And that was your product, right? Any mistakes, you had to start over. So it was 75 years ago this month, in April of 1948, Srila Prabhupada completed a 1,200-page edition of Bhagavad Gita. He was a householder, he had a pharmaceutical business, he had a family, but in spite of all these other responsibilities, he produced this book manually, page by page, with this manual typewriter, 1,200 pages. So a friend put him in touch with a wealthy doctor, and this doctor agreed to publish the book. It would have been a big thing. So he had kept his precious original copy of this manuscript safely in his house. And just when the doctor had agreed to publish it, he went to get it and it was gone. Gone. He suspected his son, he suspected his servants, because the manuscript was going to be published. He suspected maybe they thought it was now valuable and worth something, so he stole it, but he couldn't prove anything. So the whole thing was gone. So why do unwanted things happen, even to very sincere devotees? Do they happen by accident? How do they happen? Well, okay, but under whose direction? The will of the Lord. Yeah, Krishna arranges things, even very unreasonable things to happen to devotees, even to devotees. Everything is happening under Krishna's direction. What is that? Mayadakshena Prakriti, yes. The entire universe is working under Krishna's direction. So Krishna arranged for Srila Prabhupada to lose that manuscript. Why? I mean, we only speculate, but suppose he had published it and had become successful and he had become popular in India. Who knows if he would have even come to the West? Who knows why Krishna would have done that, but he did. So similarly, in this pastime, if these two Brahmins, first, there's a long description about how highly qualified these Brahmins were, how educated they were, how pious they were, how very cultured they were. And yet, for some reason, they both want this one cow. And the king very humbly says, I'll give you 100,000 cows in exchange for that one cow that you're... No, I want that one. Can anyone think of another example in Srimad Bhagavatam where a Brahmin appeared to be acting very unreasonably? There's multiple ones, but I'm thinking about from the first canto. Who? Shringi. So yes. So Maharaj Parikshit, this great king, was out on tour and he became also very thirsty, like the boys. So he approached the hermitage of a yogi who was deep in meditation. And he came in and Vedic etiquette is, if you have a visitor, you must offer them three things. What? A place to sit, water, and some sweet words. Yeah, this is minimum that you can offer a guest in your dwelling. But this sage was so deep in meditation, he wasn't even aware that the king had come in his little hut. So he did not offer any of these things. So Maharaj Parikshit, who was very saintly, very elevated devotee, thought he's just faking this meditation. He doesn't want to take care of me properly. And so he took the body of a dead snake and looped it around his neck like a garland and left. So the son of this sage, upon hearing what had happened, used this powerful Brahminical fire around him. By the power of the Brahmins and their austerities, they can just recite a mantra and create a powerful curse. So this young boy, without consulting his father, cursed this king. You're going to die in 7 days. I curse you to die. So when the sage emerged from his trance, his son was there crying. And he asked him what happened. The son had had some remorse for his action. And so he told his father everything. And then the father chastised the boy like anything. Don't you know, fool, that if we don't have a good king, then we will not have protection. We Brahmins depend on the kings for protection. And King Parikshit could have, by his own spiritual power, he could have reversed the curse. But he chose not to. He said, okay, I have 7 days left to live. How can I use this time in the best way? The great South Indian king Kulashekar made a prayer to the Lord Krishna that let me die right now, because now I have my cognizance, I have my senses, I'm aware, and I can fix my mind on you. So let me die immediately so that I will be able to enter into your loving association. So Maharaj Parikshit, in a similar way, said, I'm through with this world, I'm ready to leave. And so he accepted that curse. Because of that, Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. So Krishna sanctions these very bewildering things to happen to devotees for his own purposes. When we go through, has anyone been through bewildering things in Krishna consciousness so far? Just a few dozen times. One of the many instructions from this chapter is to understand that nothing happens without Krishna's arrangement, nothing. And so when we first approach Krishna, however tentatively, Krishna begins to reciprocate with us. Krishna, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva vijamiham. As you approach me, I reward you accordingly. If we're skeptical about Krishna, Krishna is skeptical about us. If we want to keep our distance from Krishna, Krishna keeps his distance from us. However we approach him, he just mirrors our motivation, our desire, our actions. So that's because he is benevolent and neutral to everybody. You know, he's not partial. He doesn't take favor on one and curse another one. I always had this problem growing up in Sunday school that why is it that some people are born in such good conditions and some people are sick and some people are wealthy and some people are poor? And the Sunday school teacher said, it is one of the mysteries of God. Yeah, totally that word. It was just inconceivable. Nobody can understand. But if you want to believe in God, you just have to believe in this anyway. See, so this is why Bhagavad Gita made such an impression on my life, because it answers this and so many other questions. We're responsible for our actions. Whatever we're going through, we are just getting the results of what we have done. This is called karma. But when we approach Krishna, everything changes. From that moment on, if we can just say it one time sincerely, Krishna, take me, I'm yours. Let's all say it. Krishna, take me. Now all that karma is finished. And from that moment forward, everything that happens is arranged by Krishna. So when we approach Krishna and we say sincerely we want to understand him, then he begins to give us little ways to experience his reciprocation. So anyone go to a dentist, been to a dentist, when you're older, you get these wonderful root canals and things like that. So the dentist inflicts some pain upon the patient. Why? In order to obviate greater pain later on. So similarly, when we approach Krishna, he gives us painful experiences. I mean, really painful experiences that are surgically designed to prevent more pain later on. So this is one of the most valuable lessons in Krishna consciousness. Just whatever we're going through is being arranged by Krishna. That's internally and externally. It's definitely arranged by Krishna. That much we can know for sure. If we're thinking a certain way, that's Krishna inspiring us as a super soul. If we're suffering some unwanted external event, that's Krishna intervening for his own mysterious and inconceivable purposes. But the ultimate purpose is to help us go forward, to help us progress in our spiritual life. Why? Because we've come to Krishna and said, I want to understand you. I was talking with some friends yesterday about why it's so hard for people to take to Krishna consciousness. And one of the reasons is the specificity of Krishna. You know, people are kind of generally willing to believe in God, but when you say Krishna, and then it becomes very stark. Okay, so now am I really going to believe this mystical person whose adventures seem very mythological is really God? I don't know what God does. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he looks like, but can it really be Krishna? It's fine to ask that question, and there's ample evidence to explain it. But the difficulty is that, you know, we're challenged to surrender to a person when it's so much easier to be impersonal, right? It's so much easier to not have the responsibility of a relationship. Just like people like to have boyfriends and girlfriends, but they don't like to get married. Why? Because then there's a relationship, then there's a commitment and responsibility. So similarly, when we say specifically Krishna is God, then there's a relationship. Okay, now I have to have some relationship with Krishna. Do I want this? So Srila Prabhupada said very nicely, just accept theoretically that Krishna is God. Just theoretically. Be a scientist and say, okay, I will approach Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'll offer my respects. I'll chant his name. I'll hear about him. And then I'll make a decision. This is intelligence, right? This is science. Science is hypothesis, experiment, and conclusion. So the hypothesis is that Krishna is God. The experiment is to worship him and then draw your own conclusion. So people say, no, Krishna couldn't possibly be God. Nobody can lift a mountain. Right, once a person challenged Srila Prabhupada, can God make a mountain so heavy he can't lift it? And Prabhupada said, yes, and then he can lift it. So this is very instructive because Krishna's glories are always increasing. It's like you can understand Krishna, but then his glories increase, and his glories increase so much that even he can't understand them. And then he understands them, but then they increase again. So when we're taking these, look at these pastimes, we're just getting a little snapshot of Krishna's unlimited opulences and glories. So in the case of King Nrga, he was very disposed to give charity. And if you noted right at the beginning of his little speech, he introduced himself. You've probably heard of me. Yeah. Because I'm so famous for giving charity. So as a result of his being attached to his charitable nature, Krishna had to purify him in this way. He was thinking of Krishna, but he was also attached to his charitable nature. Charity is in the mode of goodness. Right? Charity is given just to help other people. And actually in the Gita, Krishna describes charity in the three modes: passion, goodness, and ignorance. There is charity in each of the three. Can anyone remember the qualities of charity in the mode of ignorance?
Wrong person, wrong time.
Wrong person, wrong time. Yeah, not good for them, not good for you. Like a lot of times the poor folks out on the medians in the roadway, asking for money, anything helps, God bless you. And once I saw a guy, he's a sign, he said, I'm not gonna lie, I want a beer. But this is the problem, that you don't know if that charity is actually going for a constructive purpose, or if it'll just be used to further put the person in difficulty. And this is why in India, the devotees often travel with prasadam. There's a lot of beggars in India. It's a lot of poverty, and they will knock on the door of the window of the car. So if you give them prasadam, then you know it's going for a good purpose. So this charity in the mode of ignorance, wrong person, wrong time, no guarantee if it's good for anybody. How about charity in the mode of passion? What's that?
You get something out of it.
Yeah, I'm getting something out of it. Yes. Your name on the football stadium. You get your name on the stadium. There's that. There's
You get the kitchen name.
well, that's transcendental. That's Krishna's gift. But it helps. Sometimes there are scandals where a rich person wants to bribe some government official, but they will give the money to some charity, and then the charity will hire the wife of the official and pay a big salary. So they're not giving directly, they're giving. So this kind of charity is actually meant for getting something back. You see? So this is charity in the mode of passion. It's only given because the giver wants something back. The charity in the mode of goodness is given to a qualified person out of duty with no expectation of return.
Right time and place.
Right time and place, right. So just like after a yajna, a fire sacrifice that we have a little version of in our Sangha. Charity is supposed to be given to the priests. That wraps up the whole event. If you don't give charity, then the effects are lost. So charity in the mode of goodness was King Nrga's specialty. I mean, he was giving it to the qualified Brahmins. He was giving it very selflessly. Then he got a little attached to being famous for his charity. There are other people in our tradition who are attached to being known as charitable. I think we're going to read about another one, Jarasandha. He was known for never refusing a request. Karna had he had this weapon, right, with which he could kill any one of the Pandavas he wanted. And Krishna went and begged it from him in charity. But because of his attachment to his charitable reputation, he gave it to them, and therefore he was defeated. Many examples. So the point is that true selflessness does not have any strings attached. And that's the highest way to approach Krishna. It's very exalted. We all want something. What is that phrase? WIFM, the acronym. Anyone know what WIFM stands for?
What's in it?
What's in it for me? Chant Hare Krishna. What's in it for me? So years ago, some devotees tried to kind of give this material interpretation of the benefits of chanting. It was in Back to Godhead. You would chant, if you chant, they were quoting some people who were saying, wow, I chant and I really feel charged up and I really have peace of mind. And Prabhupada did not like that. So this is not the purpose of chanting, so I get some benefit from it. Rather, we chant what? Please Krishna. Please Krishna. Just we're giving our tongue and our energy and our time to please Krishna. Krishna takes pleasure in hearing his holy name, and he's not ashamed to admit it. He enjoys it, he takes pleasure, just like any one of us. The sweetest sound in any language is our sound of our own name. We all experience that, right? Unless it's coming from certain people. Prabhu. But the sound of Krishna's name benefits us because we are putting ourselves in the actual position of pleasing Krishna, selflessly, unconditionally, the more we are able to give of ourselves in that charity, the more Krishna's reciprocation manifests in our lives. That reciprocation is always there, but initially it may be to purify us of material desires. And over time, his reciprocation is to facilitate our service more and more. You see, the short term of removing material desires is also for the long term of reciprocating, allowing us to serve more, right? To serve without any condition. Anyabilasita shunyam gyanakarmani navritam. We're not looking for reputation. We're not looking for enlightenment. We're just looking to please Krishna. This is pure devotional service. That puts us in a state of unremitting ecstasy. That puts us in a position where there is nothing more that we want out of life but that service. And we get a little taste of it as we're progressing in Krishna consciousness. More and more it comes as the years go by. So the story of King Nrga is just to bring out these points. There is no charity like giving selflessly to Krishna. And the bizarre activities that happen in our lives, unwanted things, these are all controlled by Krishna. So we'll stop there. Any discussion, reflections? Rich?
My question is, when you talk about how everything is done, by Krishna's arrangement, it confuses me on about our free will, like how I know we have free will to do things that we choose to, and I'm trying to see how the two are connected between our free will and Krishna's arrangement for everything.
Right. Our free will is whether or not to approach Krishna. If we use our free will to approach Krishna, then we're using it properly. However, if we are expecting that Krishna is going to be responding in a particular way, then we have not gone very far in our spiritual life. He will respond in his own way. And in that way is far beyond our capacity to really understand. So that's why this Shraddha, this faith, that whatever's happening, it is happening by Krishna's arrangement. Whatever challenge I have, this is Krishna reciprocating. He isn't ignoring me. He does exist. He isn't punishing me. He's helping me. He's helping me get over some attachment, some trauma, or some kind of conditioning that is keeping me from giving my whole heart in this relationship. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, again, if maybe you could reiterate or talk about like how chanting is serving Krishna correctly.
Right, chanting is serving. It is big service. It's our foundational service. It's service because it pleases Krishna. It pleases Krishna to see a lost jiva coming back to him. Just as the prodigal son in the biblical story, the son got his share of the inheritance and went to town and blew it all. The younger son, the older son stayed and faithfully served the father. So then the younger son, after blowing all the money in the city, came back hoping to get a job on the farm. But his father, rather than being upset with him, was so happy. He had a big feast, and the older son was saying, well, hey, I've been staying here and doing your bidding, and then this never do well. Brother of mine, but you're so happy to see him. And then the father said, you cannot understand the love of a parent for the child. Even if the child does unwanted things, the parent's love never diminishes. So Krishna is very happy to see us chanting. He's very happy to hear his name. He takes pleasure from both of those things. He sees us working to rectify the mistake that has kept us taking birth after birth in the material world. So that brings him great joy. Okay.
I had a quick comment, then a question. I read that chanting our rounds is like the most important service we have, because that's like the only positive vow that we take the time of initiation. So it's our highest like obligation to our spiritual master to chant like the best that we can. And I had a question about the charity and the mode of ignorance. Like when we see people on the street and they seem like they really need something, and sometimes compassion comes like, oh, I wish I could do something to help that person, but then you're not sure like it will go for the right purpose. Like it's a conflict, a big conflict. Even in India, we face that so much. Like, someone really needs something, you feel like you should give them.
You want to help, yeah.
Yeah, but you're not sure about whether it's the right thing to do. So how do you deal with that?
Right, we have to see these people as they are, which is conditioned jivas. And like everybody else, in their own way, trying to make a patchwork of material enjoyment to obscure the underlying miseries of material life. So how can we help them in the best way? Just if we can give them prasad, that's best. If we can't give them prasad, we can say, can you say Hare Krishna? And start their spiritual journey. If they can't say it, we can say, well, Hare Krishna. No, devotees are just benevolent creatures giving blessings everywhere by sharing Krishna consciousness. Even the act of wishing somebody well and giving them something that is of meaning to us, the sound of the holy name. They may or may not appreciate it, but we know within ourselves we've done the best thing we can do for them. Good. Kartikeya Prabhu, world traveler.
Kalakantha Prabhu. So, I had this conversation with my mother about charity in the different modes. Her faith pushes for give with your right and something about the left hand. Like, don't worry about it. Just give charity without worrying about it, because that's what you're supposed to do. So she seemed to be attached to that. You know, like, why should I? Then what's the point of giving charity if like I need to know what it's going for, or what it's doing, you know? So it seems contradictory in a sense.
Right. The difference is that charity is given to mankind, to people. And the charitable actions of the devotee are dedicated to Krishna. So the concept is right, but the object is wrong. The object of the charity. The concept of giving without expecting reciprocation is the highest example of charity. But that charity needs to be directed properly, otherwise it is wasted. That charity, in other words, we're giving of ourselves to Krishna. Like, look, let's just be very honest. What did any of us do to qualify for our birth, for our body? You know, did we fill out a form? Did we make a deposit? You know, we just got it. Where did it come from? Who does it belong to? Oh, okay, well, I got it, well, it's mine. I don't care who gave it to me, now it's mine. This is the bodily concept of life. Be a devotee means to understand Krishna has given me this body. Krishna has given me this air to breathe, this water to drink. Krishna's given me everything. And so what is I can't create any of it. I depend on all of it. I only give it back to Krishna. In the Ishopanishad, Prabhupada gives the example of finding a wallet in the street. Find a wallet in the street, you have three choices. The impersonalist, one choice is just, I'm not going to touch it, it's not mine. The fruitive worker will say, oh, good, a wallet. And there was an ad in a paper once that said, lost one wallet. Finder may keep the pictures, but the money has sentimental value. Please return. So the materialist just wants to keep the money. Yes, oh great, how fortunate I am, I found it. But the person who takes the wallet and looks and finds out who is the owner, the actual owner, and then returns it intact, that person is actually honest and wise. So this is the position of the devotee. Krishna has given me this body. Krishna has given me this material world. Krishna has given me everything that I have. So let me give it back to the person who actually owns it. When we think it's ours, we abuse it, we exploit it, And then because we're into exploiting, we exploit others, just trying to lord it over that which is not ours. So real charity means giving things back to their original proprietor. I'm sure your mom will appreciate that. I hope so. Your mom is one very pious. See, this piety is a good thing, just to put a bow on it. Tesham, what is that? Yesham Quantagatam Papam Jananam Punyakarmanam. In the Gita, in 8th chapter, Krishna says that those who have acted piously in this life and previous life take refuge in me in devotional service. But piety is that enables us to get a foothold in Bhakti, but they're not on the same level. Anything else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. So I guess I wonder, like, sometimes with like book distribution or prasadam distribution, like devotees might say, the more you do this, the more mercy you'll get. So it's like, doing those services, like desiring that mercy, or maybe not expecting mercy, but just I want the mercy. Is that like?
It's better than having material desires. Because if we're begging for Krishna's mercy, that's a good position. And, if we're trying to get Krishna's favor, that's a good position. If we're trying to please the devotees, that's a good position. Our motivation. You're saying is that selfish? Well, it's enlightened self-interest. Is if we get that mercy, we know we're going to be blissful. We're not exploiting anyone. We're not hurting anyone. We just want to please. So we want to please Krishna through Krishna's representatives. That's all. And then we experience it. Then we experience the happiness, the joy. We wouldn't, as Prabhupada used to say, I'm a poor man. I'm not paying these boys and girls to chant and dance. I could not afford it. But it's a natural joy to serve Krishna. And when we please Krishna, then we feel pleased also. It's called Nitya Yukta Upasate. The devotee pleases Krishna, and then Krishna pleases the devotee. And being pleased by Krishna, the devotee wants to please Krishna more. And being pleased by the devotee, Krishna wants to please the devotee more. And it just goes on and on, ever increasing. Krishna just gives more and more mercy to the devotee. And Srila Prabhupada's life is the most poignant example. Just imagine starting with nothing, and then Krishna gave him so much facility, and he just used all of it for serving Krishna, always, never any whiff of personal aggrandizement or enjoyment. Always, what can we do to serve Krishna? Right. Is that right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.